Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. If this is your first video, hi, I'm Arlathia. So for this one, we have comic page number 21. Yay! So here's a chicken scratch about her. I crossed out some of the words because I was like, let me redo some of these. I already thought some, but here's the sketch. So I have a little few more panels than normal just because the way it was set, and because most of them I did my like cheating way of just doing like the outlines of them without doing like all the details, at least for some of them. So I was able to put a little bit more under than normal. But this was kind of more of like a fighting type of scene situation, which eventually we'll get more into. But this is kind of just like the start of them, if you will. But this is also them just using the elements a little bit, not as like how they would normally use them, but these are more for like more of like a power pack punch is what it's for, because the elements can be used for like many different things. Like each element has its own certain situations that its own powers. So but these are literally just for power pack punches. That's what this is. So there's no actual like using the elements of how they're supposed to be used. That wasn't the intention for this. So it just kind of gives like a really quick look and just a quick fight for a second before we get back to like the story part is what it's for. Because why not? But the two panels I'm drawing, so like that middle one is her just kind of like throwing an air blast at right, essentially is what that was supposed to be. And the second one is her kind of like dodging away from it and it hits him type of situation. That's what I was kind of going for with this. Just to kind of give some movement and just kind of like move the story along, if you will, just by doing a couple things. Nothing super crazy, just a little bit. And then some of those text boxes in there just to kind of make it more story-ish type of situation versus just having the normal just box and then with nothing there. Because I kind of want to start doing that just for story purposes, almost like how a book would have it, but without like all the descriptions because you don't need them. It's just the thoughts of the characters is what the intention was with this. So obviously, like I'll get better over time, but it's just like right now it actually kind of works because I'm just kind of practicing a little bit, just so you can kind of get more in depth of what the characters are thinking and stuff, and who they are. But I just think it makes it a little bit different than like a normal story because most of the time they have the text boxes like that, but it's not a bunch of them. It's like every now and then. So my intention is to have them quite a bit, is what I want to do. Because I think it just makes sense and it just makes it look better and it's just like more interesting because it gives you something else to look at, something else to read, tiny bit more of the story, learn a tiny bit more about the characters as you go versus just seeing whatever you see what I draw. Now you can actually kind of look into their minds more, depending on who I'm focused on. Because some of them will be, thinking, well, we'll have multiple text boxes per character sometimes in a panel, but for the most part, it's kind of like focused on like one character per panel or whatever. So like I don't really have right in here because we're not necessarily focused on rights. That's why I'm like he doesn't really have any thoughts type of situation. But this one's kind of just him swinging back around from a punch, which you'll see later on, and then kind of coming up to her, and she's kind of getting ready because she like scooted backward and stopped. So she's getting ready to go again. So is he. So now that's why I kind of have him like in a swing motion a little bit because then he's come back up and swinging back over to get her. That's what that is. And because the sun is technically behind her now or in front of her, I don't know what the proper term is. Essentially, the sun is where we're at, like where we're sitting as a viewer is where the sun's at. So that's what I was trying to do with the shading. Yeah, I don't know if that's like in front of her or behind her. I don't know what the correct word is for that. So, but essentially now it's less like frontal lighting. So that's what I was trying to do was trying to think like, okay, where's the light gonna hit? But it's also like I still want to add some stuff in there so it's not just like 2D, it's not flat. There's still some shading just to give a little bit more depth. That's what I was trying to do. So that's why it's like colored a certain way, because that's what I'm like trying to think about when I do these. I'm like, okay, where's the sun at? So I can try and do this properly. Not that it's perfect, because we don't do perfect here. Yeah, so now this panel, the sun is directly is like behind her. So you'll see in a minute when I start doing the shading, like how most of her body is in shadow because of that. So now she has the backlighting. Her tail I kind of did my normal like coloring where I just put down like the main color and then just did a little like one thing of shading because I didn't want to like do a whole bunch with her tail because it's kind of like behind her, so that's not really like a main focus. Isn't really what I was doing with that. So that's why it's got just like the one color. It's not completely colored in like normal. But like you can tell more on her leg what I'm trying to do. So it actually kind of makes sense. It looks a little better when I add the pencil, don't worry. Because I was using like a fine tipped Tombow, the little bullet nib that they have, which are absolutely adorable by the way. I think they're very cute because they're so tiny. Yeah, and then I went back over with the brush nib just to darken it up some because I was like, a little too light. But she's actually in that stance now because she's about to like start turn and like run to where the rest of the group is, where they went. I call it the walkway. It's like a border for each of the lands, if you will. So it's just called the walkway. It's actually connected to everything, but that's what I call it. So yeah, it goes through the water. So there's like holes underneath the water, so that way like animals, like the other the aquatics can get through. I forgot their names, which eventually we'll get to meet because I gotta have aquatic animals. If you don't, it's just no fun. So that way they can kind of still travel the world and not get like bombarded by the walkway. Sorry, I'm watching Game of Thrones right now and I'm reading the books at the same time, so I'm like, we have the wall. Woo. Um. Yes, I'm rereading and rewatching both. We're on book 2, like halfway through, and I just finished season 1 of the show, so I'm kind of just doing both because I said, why not? Kind of fun. It's actually fun if you look there and like read the comparisons. As soon as you finish reading the book and then you watch the show, there are so many things that are so different that they like skipped in the show that there was in the book, or they like did things differently. It's interesting. I'm like, this is different. But I guess that's what happens when you make a movie adaptation, is you have to cut stuff out, which is understandable. But that's kind of why I like doing my little text boxes now, is because you are getting more of an insight, and I feel like it's almost so it is almost like a book, if you will, even though it's like more of a graphic novel situation. But you know, but even with the shading, I'm trying to get better. Yes, I'm a squirrel over here. We're gonna sit there and talk about one thing and then move on to the next. Hee hee hee. Keep it interesting. You have no idea what I'm gonna say next. I don't either. But with the shading, I am trying to get better at that still and trying to think about like where lighting is at to make it make sense. Sometimes it does not make sense when I do it. And I'm like, gotta make it make sense. So, okay, but here's the pencil. Right looks really weird. I understand. Trust me, I did that and I said, what the hell's going on with him? But I did that because I do use pure black for markers and colored pencils. I don't care. I can do whatever I please. I just like to do it just so I can get the actual color because I don't want to sit there and mix a bunch of colors. I hate mixing colors. Even with paints, I have so many different colored paints because I'm like, I refuse to mix and I will never mix. I hate mixing. So I just use pure black. But so right looks like that because I was trying to like do the outlines of the drawing so that way I can still see where all his stuff is. So when I went to re-outline it again later, I could find all his limbs and everything and the small details because I was like, I gotta make it easier for myself. And that little red thing on the hill back there, that's what I call the pink things or hills. My terms. Yes, the orange thing is part of the walkway, and then you have like the grass on the walkway and all this goodness. But that is actually fire, the element, who we met a few pages ago. If you have been reading these, like if you've stayed up with like all of the pages, you'll know what I'm talking about. When did we first meet him? Let's go find out. I can tell you. We met him. I'm still looking. Still looking. It's so weird going back and re-looking at these because I'm like, what the hell was I doing? I'm still looking. Hold on. This was a while ago, apparently. Oh, we met him on page 11. So 10 pages ago. We first met Fire. I don't know if I want to give them actual names yet. I might, because if I probably call him Flame. I'm debating on if I want. I might give them actual names. I don't know. But right now, his name's Fire. So I have him kind of scooching along the mountain really quick. Like, he's there, but like out of focus because he's not, the main situation. So I'm just doing that just to start including him more in the story because he is having to follow Arlathia for a reason, which we'll find out soon enough. I promise. I don't want to ruin all of it because I'm like, it just takes all the fun out of it. It's just better like learn as the story goes. But he is following her, so he's trying to like stay semi-hidden. That's why he's going now because she's focused on Right, not on him. So it's in like technically she's not supposed to know that he exists. But that doesn't last long. I'll say that. So that's what he's trying to do. He's also just making sure like Right doesn't see him because Right really can't see him. So that's what's going on back there. Like I don't draw too much attention to it at all, but it is there because I do kind of blend it in some, which I'm fine with. That was a point. So I didn't want to have him standing out and he's not supposed to. But with this, so she snapped her. Well, let me explain the panels. So she snapped her finger because I got the idea for another story I have. It's called Riders. It's got dragons and stuff. It's Dragon Riders and stuff essentially. But the spinal quills can like control other dragon species. So I gave the writer that ability too, because that's where she got it from. Her dragon. Again, that will be a story later on, I promise. I'm already thinking about it because I'm like, I kind of want to do that one next because I have several stories and I'm debating on that one or another one next. But I'm like, I might do that one next. Because I thought about that one a little bit more than the other ones. The other ones I have an idea, but I might just stick with that one. So I decided to give that power to her and like pretty much all the stories. Because I thought it was kind of cool. It's a little out there, but I'm also like that just kind of showed you how powerful she is. So when she snaps her fingers, she can control whoever is around her, like anybody. So right now she did it to Right, so now for a few seconds, Right's kind of just waiting for like her command before he snaps out of it, essentially, because it's almost like kind of calling and like getting their attention, is what it does. So that's like ability that she has, but I'll use it throughout. It's something random, I know, but I'm also like, you know what? I can do whatever I want, and I'm gonna do that. But yes, that will get used in other stories as well. Because a lot of the things I have, I'm going to reduce, reuse, recycle, and no, I don't care. I'm like, it saves me time. I feel like all of it's kind of cool concepts, and it's just my stuff. And I kind of want to keep it to my stuff. So I'm like, if it's unique to me, as unique as it can be, I'm going to use it. So certain things we're going to reduce, reuse, recycle. And you'll see eventually throughout stories what I'm talking about. Because I do reuse certain characters. All the characters get reused. Their designs get recycled, and I reduce the time it takes me to do different things because I said I can just reuse things and I don't care. But you'll see eventually when I start doing other stuff, or when I start doing character drawings, like you'll start seeing the same thing. So I'm starting to do those too as like actual character drawings, so you guys can start meeting some of the characters for actually do the stories, which is fine. I just want to start getting them out there now because I probably should because they're my characters, right? I need to do that versus just the random drawings I've been doing, which are still fine because it's different. But I need to be doing more. Okay, so this panel is the first panel. I know I do these out of order. I do it on purpose. So that way you can't see like the whole story idea thing until the very end. It's on purpose, but I don't really care. It makes it interesting, and if you don't read it right away, then it doesn't matter too much. But this is where her and Right both throw air and fire at one another, and they hit. And now they're kind of being I guess blasted away by the blast. I don't know. Being flung or whatever the hell the term is. I don't know. That's kind of what's going on. So that's why in that second panel you see her kind of stop. That's why I have like the little action lines, kind of like her scooting and stopping, and that's why right is kind of curling back upwards to come back at her. That was the intention at that point. So again, I know it makes more sense when you do it in order, but again, I'm like, I just think it's kind of boring. It takes all the fun out of it. At least this way, it just kind of keeps it interesting because you're like, okay, well, what's the next panel? You don't know until you get there. But if you just want to sit there and read the whole thing through, I also do post shorts um every other, well, the following week. So next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, probably Wednesday, I post the shorts of these. So that way you can just sit there and literally just read the comic as is. Like there's no drawing. It's just me posting the different stages I took of the drawing. Oh, but I also have been having fun with doing the lighting. So what I've been doing is I'll do the marker with shading, and then when there's certain bits of lighting, like you have the air for the gray and then the fire and stuff, I will go ahead and do the lighting portion so that way it's on the characters without it being overbearing. So I actually kind of like that better. I think it just looks good because it's kind of subtle. It actually makes it brighter, and you're still like some shading and like color underneath without me having to do all that extra stuff. So I'm like, I actually kind of like it better. So I just think it looks really good. Personally, that's just me. So I've been having fun with that whenever I do lighting. So I'm like trying to do more of it just to get more practice in. But I think overall it looks better. And again, it's just a lot more interesting. And that's also why right in the very back, I actually do that with the fire. It's subtle because he's farther back, but I do it. You just have to look. Um so yeah, the lighting hits the ink. I'm so sorry. But it's like I still gotta figure that part out. But that's why I just like doing with the lighting. I just think it's kind of fun. Even though it's not, it's just subtle, but it's still there. But here's the end. So here's it all together. So now it also kind of makes a little more sense. More sensical. Make it make sense. Yeah, this is me trying to figure out the best way to hold this because I'm like, the lighting stitch. But that's it. But yeah, so now at least you can see it all together. And now all the different panels make sense in order. I know storytelling, but I'm not a professional, I'm an amateur. But that is it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!